So this is the second talk related to autoscale groups and load balancers. It's the second part of a talk related to this blog article that I wrote a while back. So this is AWS relationships between EC2, ELBs, elastic load balancers, and autoscale groups, ASGs. We talked about this a little bit last time. We're going to use this as an example here, the example template for autoscaling. So we're going to create, use a CloudFormation template to create an autoscale group with 3 nodes in it. They're configured with the web servers. They'll be loaded in a load balancer. Now, there's a couple things in this that we're not going to deal with today. So this is the load balancer I was talking about, it, and the launch config that describes how the web servers are going to be configured. I'm not going to talk about the security group, and I'm not going to talk about actual autoscaling here. Just this notion is I want to create a load balancer, I want to create an autoscale group with a couple nodes in it. If I get lucky and remember how it works, I might have this working as different availability zones, but I don't remember if it's configured that way because I forgot to run through this right before the talk. But hey, we'll see how it works, right? So let's, this is actually, like I said, the basis based on this talk here, AWS relationships between EC2, ELBs, and ASGs. And we're going to use this, create a scalable load balancing web server template as our example. So basically what you do is you log into AWS. Let's make sure I'm still logged in. Hey, we are. I'm actually running the AWS Banner Chrome extension here. You can see I'm actually running in a non-federated as myself. If I was logged in at work, this would actually show whatever the production dev and QA, because it's coded that way, and it'll color code it based on how severe or how risky my work is in that environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a stack here. I'm actually going to click on this, and I'm going to choose a file. And I'm going to pick the auto-scaling template, which hasn't been modified. And I'll show you later why I kind of wish it had a slightly different config. But hey, so this is the auto-scaling template, and I'm going to create it. This will take like 3.5 minutes to create once I tell it. So we're going to call this our demo autoscale group. Oop. Demo. This is so I can tear it down later. And I don't really care what the key name is, so I'm just going to pick a key that I already had out here, right? Which was a benchmark speed test I did before. And then I'm going to go next. So these 4 here are actually the parameters that are required in the JSON file. They basically say that these are mandatory, and there are a bunch of other parameters, but those all have defaults, or they're not mandatory. So now I'm going to pull this here. And I'm going to do something here just for giggles. I was going to talk last time about names. So if you create a EC2 instances and you give them a name tag in the EC2 screen, they'll all actually have the same name, even though they have different instance IDs, and you can see how they're related. So I'm not going to add a name tag here. Personally, I think this should be mandatory in all templates that you add this tag, but you know, whatever. So I'm not going to set anything up advanced. I'm not going to do an IAM role, which you would normally do, duh. And I'm not going to set up any of the other configurations. We'll go here. So we can look at this. It's using this template and no tags. I'm going to show you actually how you can make a minor change later to use the tags. So let's look at this. So I'm going to click create, and it will start. Ooh, validation operator email must be set. All right, so let's do this again. Let's go back and back, and we'll give it my email address. Hey. And then we'll go forward with no tags. We'll see if we can create it this time. All right, so you can see here that it's actually out. What it's going to do is it's going to provision all the resources we talked about. And we can actually kind of see this here. If I click on this guy and I go to the design template, so you can see the demo autoscale CloudFormation template is the one that's highlighted. And if I go to the design template, I can kind of back into this. And that did not work at all. Why did that not work? Because I did the wrong thing. So it's awesome when you do a demo live and haven't practiced it. So I have a stack that's being created now. Oh yeah, we can view it in the designer once it's been set up. That'll teach me. So there's 10 more events to display, so I'm actually going to move this up and reload. So we can see that the stack is complete. So I'm going to move this back down again. If I were to go to the EC2, I can go to the autoscale. So we'll just type autoscale here. Hey, it's not there. That's because it's in the EC2 instances. So if we go to the EC2 instances here, we can see we have 3 running instances. They have no names. I always hate that. But we can see that they are actually 3 T2 smalls, which would be related to this. If I come down here, you can also see that there is an auto-scaling group. Yeah. So we can see we have 1 auto-scaling group here. And we can see that it's got a min-max and desired of 3, and that there are 3 instances currently running, right? We can also go to the load balancers, because this is the way we would generally connect to this. So let's scroll down and find the load balancers. There they are. I only have 1 load balancer loaded. That's the demo auto-scale load balancer, oddly enough. And we can see here that there's an address. So I'm actually going to go to this address because I didn't apply any Route 53 or any of that kind of stuff. Hey, as you can see, we've successfully launched the AWS CloudFormation sample. So what we did, relatively straightforward, if we go back to the auto-scale groups, I'm sorry, to the CloudFormation template, we can go back to this now that it's been created, and we can see that we can view this template in the designer. Right? So let's do like this, and we can zoom this guy in a little bit. And then we'll, oh, wrong one. There we go. So you can see here, if I move stuff around, boop, boop, boo, boop, ba-doop, boo, ba-doop, boop, boo. And then we put this one here. We can see that the web server auto-scale group is kind of at the middle of this, right? And unfortunately, because of the way this thing draws, you really can't get awesome drawings sometimes. So here we have the web server. We have the web server scaling policy, which is essentially the description of how it's going to scale. We have the launch config that is the actual web server config for what will get launched. Every time a node terminates or gets restarted, it'll use this launch config, and then we have the auto scaling group, and then we have the load balancer. So if we were to go back and say yes, I could hit the close button there. And then we go over to the EC2 instance. Man, remember I told you I really don't like the fact that this thing doesn't create a name tag, right? Oop, wrong one. So we're going to go to instances. So you can see these have no name tags. I'm going to show you that these things actually get auto started from the CloudFormation template. So if I go back to the CloudFormation template and I edit it, so I say yes, I would like to update the stack. We're going to use the current template. And we're not going to do anything there. We're going to just leave the same email address. And then we're going to add a name tag here. Name. My demo cluster. Right. So we'll see if it takes that. And then we'll go next. Computing the changes. So it's actually going to apply everything. So let's see what's happening. Update in progress. So this is where you usually, I can either fast through the video or I can just talk about random stuff. So while it's doing this, I can actually, shouldn't take very long. Let's see. Hey, update complete. So let's go back to the EC2 nodes. So not only do auto scale groups let you zoom up and zoom down, or scale up and scale down, and you can also manually update those. So at night you could bring down a number of nodes, even if you didn't want to do true auto scaling, because not all apps perform well with it. So now what I'm going to do, see there's no name here, even though I put it in the template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one of these. I'm going to terminate it. We are going to terminate this instance. Yes, terminate everything. I am with extreme prejudice. Okay, so if we were to go back to the auto scale groups here, we have a node down. Node down. So if we look at the node down, so right now it thinks it's still got this many instances. Let's see what that looks like. And it thinks they're all healthy, right? Like how could that be if it's actually being terminated? So let's oh, how could that be? So let's go back to the EC2 instances. And you can see it's still shutting down because I terminated it. I should have killed it. Anyway, so while that thing's shutting down, once it's shut down, because I did a graceful shutdown, but I didn't tell the auto scale group I was going to resize. Ooh, we're down, right? So if we go to the load balancers, not elastic IPs, what am I thinking? If you go to the load balancer, you'll see that the instance count on this thing shows only 2 now, right? We had 3 and then I killed 1. So, and you can see that they're in 2 availability zones here too. So we're gonna wait a while and see what happens. So, oh, I guess I could walk you through the, so this is Visual Code. I love Microsoft Visual Code for coding on my Mac and the PC. So this is the JSON that we talked about before, and these are the resources that are involved, right? So we have the notification topics. So we have a web server autoscale group. And if I go in here real quick, you can see it's got a min size and a max size of 3. And then remember, machines in an autoscale group don't register with the load balancer. Doesn't know about the autoscale group. The autoscale group registers EC2 nodes with the load balancer. So here we know who it's going to register with, and we know some other details about it. We can see that this is the launch config for the web server that we did, which is the demo server that I showed you the web address. And you can see here that it's actually installing a simple application. And then if we scroll down in here, you can see that it's going to do some yum installs, and it's going to put where the Docker root is and all that kind of stuff. So this fully configures the web server. You could use your own scripts too. And then we have the load balancer here, which we can see that availability zones it's going to use. Those were passed in through other parameters. And we can see what the basic configuration. Okay, I've stalled now. So let's see what happened here. So let's do a and there you go. So what happened was I had 3 nodes here with no names, and then I terminated one of the nodes, and then the load balancer, if we were to look at the CloudWatch events, would have marked that dead, and actually the ASG would have recognized that it was dead, and the ASG adds another node. And because I had updated the template, it actually added the name tag from the updated template. So you could do, if you had minor changes or you wanted to change something, you could actually update your CloudFormation template and then individually terminate the nodes and then bring them back, and you could do some kinds of changes with it. This is a very simple one because it was just a name tag, but when it brings those nodes back, it's actually going to reinstall all the software and everything. So you could actually do an update that way with no real downtime. If you wanted to automate it, you could write a command line script or some other kind of code that would actually go out and terminate those nodes using the command CLI, and that way you could build this into your build process. All right, so that's basically what I wanted to show, which is, hey, you want an autoscale group, you want availability zones, it's really not that complicated. Just do the CloudFormation template. Use the demo one. You probably may not want to do real auto sizing, in which case you could strip out all of these pieces from this. It doesn't really matter. You might leave the notifications, but everything else you would strip out if you're not going to actually auto scale, or if you're going to like manually scale up and down. And that's it. Hope this was interesting. If it's not, don't leave any email.